Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Round 14 review, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby opinion and predictions. And why else would you go anywhere else? I tell you, this is the only place to be. And joining me this evening is, all the way from Thailand, is Herman. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening, Paul. I'm fine, and how are you?
I'm good. We're going to have to buy some light bulbs because clearly you're struggling with the old lighting.
Well, you want me to make it more light, right?
Yes, go to yes, a bit more bright.
Oh.
Well, whilst Herman's off turning his lights on, there we go. Now people can actually see him. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, this show comes out at 8 p.m. every Monday on YouTube, so you can catch and see how things are done behind the scenes. And already there are a bunch of guys chatting in the live chat. So hi, Jack, Andre, Christian, Brent. Hope you're all having a great evening and or morning, actually, in the case of Brent, as he's in South Africa. But Herman is now back, and we can actually get on with the show. So, first up, we had the Hurricanes versus the Reds. One that I thought was going to be easy to predict. I went to Hurricanes by 15. But it ended up being a lot closer than that, didn't it?
Yes, it did. That was maybe the biggest surprise of them all, because I was firmly in the camp that this is going to be at least 30 points up for the Hurricanes.
And I guess that's been one of the themes of this season, is there are a couple of teams out there now that seem to be able to turn up on some weekends, and on other weekends they're just not even at the races. After losing to the Sunwolves heavily last weekend, you thought that the Hurricanes, a better side than the Sunwolves, let's be honest, should be able to rack up a few more points. The Lions are another one. They'll lose to the Blues one week, and then they'll beat. They'll put in a good performance the next week. The Hurricane, they beat the Tars and lost to the Reds. So there are a number of these teams out there this season that really you are guessing when it comes to who's going to turn up, aren't you?
It's a nightmare when you're doing prediction, isn't it? You really have to have a feel for it if you're going to be spot on now. You
do, and we'll get on to some of that later on. But I thought it was pretty telling that early on the Reds got themselves under advantage. They had an opportunity in the Canes half, and John Lance just kicks the corner. They don't really try to score a try. He just seems to kick the ball away, go, I'll have my three, please. They didn't look very adventurous, or it didn't seem to be trying too much from the Reds this evening.
No, but I thought you can't really complain about the Reds. They had a pretty solid game plan there, you know. But I also get the feeling that, for me, it was probably after already from the first time when the Reds came into the Hurricanes 22. I sensed right away, oh my God, Hurricanes look soft today. They look loose, because Reds could go pretty much straight through them in the middle without too much hassle. So, at least the first half, I was thinking, this is going to be pretty even. But then I was like,
they kicked their three. They didn't. I thought they would have just tried a bit more. If you've got advantage on the edge of the opposition 22, there are crossfield kicks, there are little chips over the top, there are passing moves. There's so much you can have a go with, but kicking it to the corner was just he's not really going to get that ball. It's going to bounce out anyway. There was just a lack of intent for me there. That was all. Maybe I'm a bit harsh.
No.
But yeah, as I say, the Reds took three. The Canes came back very quickly and scored a try from the scrum, and that we kind of repeated that. Reds score three. Yeah. Ben Lamb comes back and carries two players for 10 metres over the line and puts the ball down for a try. That guy is something special, isn't he, this season?
He is, but don't you reckon he missed out maybe on the All Black spot because when he bombed the try, also on the left?
I really don't think you get into the or get left out of the All Blacks on one try. On one moment.
No, obviously not. But I think it's you're looking for details because he's so close to get selected. So it can very much be with small details that gives you a nod or not. But I'm with you. I'm exaggerating there. I think it's more down to his. I think there's still some questions to ask about his defensive play, but on attack, he for sure ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, we'll be getting into that in depth on Wednesday night with the All Blacks edition.
All right.
So we'll be going through the All Blacks squad several times probably during the hour, picking it to pieces. So for in-depth reasons as to why we think Ben Lamb has been left out, then join us on Wednesday or catch the podcast obviously as well. Then the Reds actually changed their plan because they got a penalty just short of the line after pounding away and actually took a scrum, which was a bit strange. That they go for 3 and then suddenly they change their tactics and think that their scrum's strong enough. That was an interesting one. Maybe they just realised that they weren't going to keep up if they kept scoring 3 to every 7.
My take on it was a little bit connected to what I said before. I think the Reds, the further the game went, they realised, we're not going to get smashed here today. We're going places when we have the ball in hand. So that I think was the biggest reason why we changed tactics and stopped kicking and go 3 and all of a sudden starting to go for 5s and 7.
They pull it back. Ben Lamb then dropped the ball over the line, again holding it with one hand. And this is the try you're talking about in details. There's a time when you can just hold it in one hand and put it down. He's done it probably about 10 or 14 times so far this season, however many tries he's scored. There are other times when you wrap it up and you drop down, and that's what he should have done here. He should have dived over or just fallen over, really, for this one. Luckily, it didn't come back to haunt the Canes too much.
Actually, what I'm thinking about, maybe I'm a bit unfair to him because I sort of recall when I watch the replay, you can see the Reds player who's tackling is hitting him right on the elbow. And if you get a good hit right on the elbow, your nerves here, you will open your hand right away. I don't know if you're familiar with this, if you have nerves around the elbow, that will make your hand open.
Yes, and that's why you have the whole arm wrapped around it, so if your hand does open, it still doesn't fall out. All
right. Fair play, Paul. Fair.
I then need to have my own person. I need my community manager to look after the live chat. He should have kept hold of that. Karevi, who's had a bit of a poor season this season, showed us why he is class and why he is a Wallaby.
That was it.
Hitting that line perfectly.
He did, and I mean that's a massive boost for the Wallabies because they desperately need him in some form for this series against Ireland, I reckon.
Oh, that's going to be interesting as to what the Wallabies combination is because you've got to say that Beale will be at 12. Do you get Kurandrani or Karevi at 13? And Karevi's been called out there defensively previously, so I think I'm not sure that Karevi's. He's probably going to be a bench option rather than actually a starter. I'd have thought.
Bench option. I agree about that.
And then we had some typical Highlanders stuff. You
mean like scoring tries?
Lovely hands out, and then out wide you find a number 8 just strolling over, and you're thinking, really, number 8 stuck out wide, get in the middle, get stuck in a bit more. But no, the All Blacks like to have a hooker out on one wing and a number 8 out on the other wing. So there was that there, and then Ben Proctor held up over the line. Proctor, according to Boyd, the best centre in the country currently. Maybe not according to other players, or other pundits. Didn't get himself down. And one of the things I thought when Lamb went scored out wide was Barrett's kicking has had to be good this season because so many of their tries are being scored out wide this season. This is not breaks up the middle or kick returns as we've seen quite a lot from the Hurricanes. It has been much more of get it out to Ben Lamb and let him go in the corner. Yeah,
and that's very well spotted of you, Paul. I've been thinking too of this, that Barrett, he doesn't get many shots right in front of his sticks because, first we rarely take frees, Hurricanes, and as you say, their wingers score a lot of tries. So. But shouldn't we give him some props, Barrett? I think he's kicking better than ever, actually, at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. His kicking has been spot on this season. He was perfect tonight from memory. Actually, I've got the stats here, so I don't know why I'm using memory. 100% kick success rate tonight. with his 5 conversions and the penalty goal on half time, which you could see why they kicked the 3 after the hooter. So his kicking has been top notch, and I think clearly he's been working on that in the off season, because he has. We've not had those days where, or any games this season where he's suddenly off the boil. I don't think, from memory, which we have had in the past. He's always been a good kicker on his day. Now we can say he's a good kicker, full stop, and that's been kind of the advance we've seen these last over the summer.
I think, but it's not only the stats. If we go like a little bit deeper into it, if you're really watching how his feet is moving, how he strikes the ball, it seems like you get a much better connection with the ball. I mean, you will still miss some, but it seems like it really seems like he knows what he's doing, and he trusts his technique now. You know, and even if he miss one, he just go on and do exactly the same thing the next time.
That's exactly. It has been. Has been good. I mean, Andre says Barrett kicking like a spray gun last season. He's been excellent this season. I think a spray gun is a little bit harsh, but there we go. He had his days on and off. We saw a bit of why the Tongan Thor is considered so good, and why there's so much noise around him as well with his try.
We did.
And we'll see him for quite a long time to come as well, I imagine, barring injury.
It was a good try he scored, but probably even better his assist in the second half for a try when he made the goose step. And actually, it was not a goose step only for show. It was a proper one.
A proper goose step.
I mean, I'm a massive fan of TJ Perinara in every regard, but my God, his tackle attempt on Tongan Thor, it was more like, I'm going to pretend tackling him in here, just hope no one sees so I don't get hurt.
Yes, there was. Yes, when he was breaking down the line, there were a couple of players there who were like, I don't want to get in front of this train. We're too close to June internationals for me to be doing too much of that kind of stuff. So let's have a quick look at some of the stats. Obviously the Canes kicked it out as quick as they could at the end there, because the Reds deservedly got that losing bonus point. But you say you're right. Let's give the Reds a plaudits. Let's have a go at the Hurricanes. Stats: the second half, 77% territory for the Hurricanes, only 23% territory for the Reds. That is a appalling strike rate for the Canes, that they didn't score more points. 15 clean breaks to 5 clean breaks, and this game came down to 4 points. The Hurricanes really were not on.
Reds were super effective. I think Reds pretty much got points almost every time we got into Hurricanes 22. I think it was once or twice we did it.
But a 75% tackle rate by the Reds. I mean, their scramble defence must have been good on the night, because
it was a sight to behold.
Their first up defence wasn't that great.
No, but it also felt really, really. I mean, when you take away those last 5% and you don't really commit, you don't have the guys around you doing the hard yards and so on. I mean, I was mostly surprised, actually, especially in the second half, but this sort of continued with the Hurricanes, because I was expecting Chris Boyd to give him a hairdryer in halftime, like, step it up here, boys. But it just went on and on. And I mean, you can only play what's in front of you, but Hurricanes should probably be lucky, because a little bit better side than the Reds, they would probably beat them when they play like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we look at, again, some of the other stats here. Passes, 196 passes for the Hurricanes. That's a crazy amount. Only 80 by the Reds. 156 runs to 78 runs. They passed the ball way more than twice as much. They ran the ball twice as much, and they came up with only 4 more points. This was a team that really, really did not execute. They were not clinical on the night. And they got out of jail. They won't get out of jail against other teams, as you say.
And when you say stats like that, sorry for swearing, Paul, but it almost sounds like sounds almost like football in Barcelona with tiki-taka play, when you're just passing.
Yeah, absolutely. There are more like that. I mean, I can go on, like 15 offloads to 3 offloads. I mean, they dominated on so many of those sort of things, but they just, But they in other games, they will be in trouble. Moving on then, we went over to Hong Kong, of all places, for the Sunwolves versus the Stormers. And we had a bit of a story of two halves here, didn't we? Dylan Lade's lovely break, an amazing try in the corner to kick things off. The Stormers pick up another try from an intercept to the Sunwolves, and it's all one-way traffic for a while there to the South African side.
Well, no, I would say actually, because both those tries for Stormers scored were more like gifts from the Sunwolves. When it looked for more structured play, I thought Sunwolves actually looked the better side from the start almost. I didn't expect Stormers to score ever almost when they tried to play within their structures. If they got some gift, again, do some scrambling on attack, yeah, then they could score. And Dylan Lates, although he made his second try, we might come to later too, is also both his first try is it's with inches he scores his one, inches, like. And same thing with his next one. So it's like, I wouldn't call it like Stormers dominating, because I would say they rode their luck a little bit there.
Maybe so, but throughout this game, they gave up only 3 penalties all game to 9 by the Sunwolves. They were very well disciplined, and I think they did. The tackling was also to a high percentage as well. Tanaka, great spot to get the break and help drag things back to 10-17 at half time. But to me, it felt like the second half the Stormers just ran out of gas and couldn't cope with the heat, which was one of those things we talked about last week, wanting to see the big Afrikaans forwards running around in the humidity, and that didn't work.
Well, to be fair to them, it was pretty close. They were not that far away from winning.
No, they weren't. It was pretty close, but the Sunwolves definitely were throwing everything at them in that early in the second half. They were running it from everywhere. They really were trying to stretch them and make them get tired. And it wasn't until the 67th minute that the Stormers scored in that second half. Very different to the first half, and then it was a scrum penalty, which gave them a quick scrum penalty and then offside penalty, gave them that 20-23 lead. 79 minutes holding on to the ball gives Hayden Parker a shot at goal to even things up, and then 82 minutes. After the hoot is gone, the Stormers have the ball and they turn it over, going for the victory, and the Sunwolves go down and drop goal it over. This one at the end of the day actually came down to kicking. Hayden Parker 100% and only 60% kicking sticks by the Stormers. You've got to say, if they had Dupree like they had last season, they'd have won this game because he wouldn't have missed those kicks.
Probably not. But still on performance, especially in the second half, I thought Sunwolves outplayed Stormers a lot. And my feeling was when going into the last minute and the Stormers were still leading with 3 points, I was thinking, now this is Sunwolves, classic Sunwolves, like gifting away another game we should have won, because they really had the Stormers on the ropes for a large part of that second half, but they just couldn't nail it in the end, and then gave away and we actually took the lead eventually, but then we gave away 2 pretty stupid penalties to let Stormers come back. But have to give some prop to Marais also, that's a 57-meter kick on sea level. That was pretty impressive, and it looked like he had another 10 on it too,
It was a very impressive kick when I thought they were safe giving a penalty that far out. But one of the things, the Stormers gave up 3 penalties. The Sunwolves kicked 3 penalties. So not only did they give up 3 penalties, but they gave them all in kicking distance. So it's whilst the Sunwolves came away with this win, they may have played better. I think they got a bit. I think they got a bit lucky with the Stormers side that went really.
That last play is crazy. It's kamikaze rugby in many ways, but it's beautiful when it comes up because there is a draw. Stormers kicks off a ball, the hooter goes. It's a full 80 minutes. Sunwolves have the ball deep inside their own 22. They could choose to kick it out and take a draw right away there. But no, they kick it back to the Stormers and try to contest for the kick. Lose that battle. So the Stormers get a chance just outside the 22 to break them. And for like 12 phases, Stormers said we can't milk the penalty. And then the Georgian boy in Sunwolves made the turnover. But what Sunwolves did after there, you have to applaud them, inside their own 22. And they were like, within 30 seconds, they were inside Stormers 22. And it was, Hayden Parker made the drop goal, but he was also all behind that attack too. I mean, first his pretty spot on kick out on the wing, and then also he comes there and cleans up the ball out on the wing also on his own kick after the winger have just dropped it on the ground, so he's not going out. And as soon as he gets the chance, and also remember Hayden Parker is left-footed, and he took the dropper with his right, so that's Dan Carter-esque almost.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what Andre said. Yeah, wrong foot, Dan Carter-esque. Another comment in the chat from Christopher. Robbie Fleck is quite possibly the worst coach in Super Rugby. I'm not sure about that. There's some pretty good contenders there for him to compete against him.
Name them. Who is worse than Robbie Fleck?
Name them.
Yeah.
The guy at the Waratahs for a start. He's got a host of Darryl Gibson. Yes, exactly. He's got a host of Wallabies there in Hooper, Foley, Beale, Folau, and they have been looking abject at times. So yeah, no, I don't rate him at all. So I think there's definitely some competition, and I think Brent's decided to throw in Tanner in there as well.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about too. Actually, I guess we have our 3 medals here. Gold, silver, and bronze for worst coach in rugby.
I'm not convinced by Dupria either. The Sharks, to me, they've been one of the most disappointing teams this season because they've got the quality, whereas I think the Stormers always were going to struggle this season with inexperience at their halfbacks. So it's much more of what I was expecting from the Stormers, whereas the Sharks I expected so much more, and I've been so disappointed by what's come from them as well.
They're very bipolar, aren't they? The Sharks.
Yeah. Well,
the most inconsistent team in the competition.
And again, we've already said that there's plenty of competition for that in the Reds.
Yeah, that's also a tough one.
The Jaguares early form was very inconsistent. They seem to have sorted that out. The Stormers, fantastic. Haven't lost or maybe they've lost one at home. Haven't won any away. There's plenty of that.
You could probably even place Highlanders there now too. They're starting also to go very much up and down.
Well, that's only if you kick people in the face. So, talking of that, let's move on to the Blues versus the Crusaders. I was actually at Eden Park for this one, and
in the rain.
In the rain. So hopefully no one from Eden Park's watching. But yeah, we took our general admittance tickets and went and sat in the south stand where you're not allowed to sit. The more expensive seats because they were covered, but no one checked our tickets, so it was all okay. So was up in the upper south stand to watch this one, and I'll admit I had a few beers, so my memory of this one is perhaps not as great as it should be, and my notes are even less great, having not made any, which I probably should have done. But to me, from memory of actually watching the game, being there, never really felt like the Blues were really in this one. That basically the Crusaders always were had enough to stay in the lead and take it, even if it did get marginally close at some points during the first half.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Paul. It was loose. They could get their hands on the door handle, but they just didn't know how to really open it. And Crusaders, even if Crusaders from bits and parts of this game play pretty bad rugby, lots of handling errors from them, so lots of stupid rugby. They still just, when they needed to, they just need how to step it up. But I guess we have to go there. I mean, this is the second week in a row that Crusaders are extremely lucky. We could have a very different game here again. I mean, because I watched it on television, and the thing, I don't know if you were aware of it inside the stadium, but they actually took it up with the TMO, but it was 2 minutes afterwards. And it was pretty solid evidence that Franks had hit Parson with his forearm in the head. And what I understand, the referee say, no, but it's gone too long. I can't red card him now. This incident happened over 2 minutes ago, so we play on.
Wow, if that's what was said, I didn't hear what was said.
That's why Tana is furious after a line. Furious.
No, I mean, if the referee realises that he should have given him the red card, they just give him the red card. Because we watched it live, we saw it there, and I was like, when they didn't do anything about it, I was like, that's a sighting. He's getting a ban for that one.
Yeah.
Now, I must say, to me, it looked like he was actually going to put his arm around the guy's head and twisted. But anyway, if it was either way, it was contact around the head neck area at the maul, and basically, even me, miles away from a not that big screen, looked at it and went, "Yep, he's getting cited for that because the referee's missed it and not given it."
Yeah, but this is a weird thing that the referee actually got a chance to have a look at it, but still miss it, which is like, what is going on here, But I think, if I may say, like, with the Crusaders, I'm having a wee feeling now that this is going to come back and hurt them, because now the referee's going to have eagle eyes on them for the next couple of games. They're not going to get away with anything, because it's got to be kind of embarrassing if you're a referee and missing blatant red cards like that when they're shown right in front of your eyes and you're still not calling them. They have Monday reviews also, referees, and that's not going to look good at all for him.
Yep, and the Crusaders and all more New Zealand sides have a reputation for getting away with some things, and I think that actually that's more just people just blowing it up than anything else. But you're right. The Crusaders now are going to have people watching them. It was just dumb play. 2 weeks on the trot, two props who should know a lot better, and it's not even. I don't know what to say about it really. Yeah. But I say even us in the ground looked at him and went, "Yep, he should be off." So if we could see it and we were at the top of the south stand, which I tell you, my legs were burning by the time I walked all the way up there. Never mind. If we can see that far away, then it was pretty clear.
But if you continue, if you just continue that note about Crusaders going to have their eyes on it, because they also have 5 yellow cards in the last 4 games to add to that. And I see like Racer go out, oh, but we're not a dirty team, but Racer, maybe don't say that. Do your homework.
Yep, they are a dirty team. Let's be honest. And whilst a lot of us look at from a European point of view, we're so used to watching the All Blacks backs running around and breaking, playing champagne rugby and scoring. Their forwards have for many years, forever, been more than willing to put the odd dirty hit in there and here and there. So they're as equally dirty as some of the South African teams have been reputation for. Box teams have been reputation for as well. It's just the box teams enjoy having a reputation. And you just think of Victor Matfield and Bacchus Botha.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas the All Blacks like to have realise they've got a media machine that has to keep their image whiter than white. So whilst the players will do it, they don't try and revel in it. But I remember one of the All Blacks on the November tour just hitting a player from behind and just swinging a punch and hitting him. You're like, hang on, the guy's not even looking at you, and that's a very cheap, dirty shot. So,
but I have to say, I want to add one more thing to this. I mean, I have to say fair play, because Kiwi media is also usually turning the blind eye to this, but you have to give props to them. They have been pretty upset about this also and follow it up. So like it seems, and that's what I also suspect by Crusaders going to have a little bit of a rougher time in the next couple of rounds here, because when even the Kiwi media starts pointing a finger at them, then you know you're in trouble. Then you know where to talk behind the scenes.
No, exactly. And I'm just realised we've been going for what looks like about half an hour already, and we've only got through a couple of games. A very wet game. Hence, that's why we went and hid in the stands. It was interesting to see that even the Crusaders were kicking for 3 at times because of the weather, and they kicked a couple of penalty goals. Again, the Blues' kickings didn't help them, but hey, the Crusaders got a lead, went out in front, and just held on to it. So even though they did have they should have had a red card, they did get a yellow card. they powered on through and won it. The Blues line out again fell apart. Now, I'm not a line out coach, but here we go, Tanner. Please watch and listen. Throw it in quick, get your guy in the air quick, and make him catch it. Stop having them walking up to the line out, running backwards and forwards, playing some sort of musical chairs as to who's going to stand in the right place, then get lifted and overthrow it. Don't overcomplicate it. You need to simplify the line out because it's going bad for several weeks on the trot. It isn't, and you're one of the few teams that's doing it as well. Every other team seems to be able to do a line out, pretty much, give or take. Sure, certain line outs will disintegrate for one game or whatever, but week after week, this is just appalling by the Blues.
It is. I mean, only thing again because it looked like the same old story with the scrum in the beginning against Crusaders, but I thought the Blues stepped up with scrum after like 20-25 minutes. Because it looked like when you have when Crusaders dominating both the scrum and the lineouts, then you know you're going to be in for a long day at the office. It's not deprived, but I thought at least that was a positive for the Blues. The scrum is looking a tad bit better.
For positives, the Blues, their tackling has been a lot better the last 2 or 3 games. Again, they hit 80% this week rather compared to the Crusaders 70%. So their defence has stepped up, which is why they're not getting blown away quite so much as they have been in previous games, and that has been good. But yeah, there are still some pretty big deficiencies, as we say, around that sort of set piece line out and some other areas as well. So but unfortunately, that's kind of what we've had from the Blues. Moving on then, the drought has finished. Finally, the Waratahs have managed to stand up for Australia. And perhaps we should all stand up and sing Waltzing Matilda or something at this point. Yes, 41-12. I had the Highlanders by 5 in this one. I didn't see this kind of result coming after the Waratahs had lost to a Blues side that we've already just been talking about being appalling. Wow, this was this all came out of the blue.
Really, I saw it coming actually. I had the Waratahs to win this game, basically because they lost against Blues, but still Blues defense was pretty good in that game. It was more like Waratahs wasted it. They could easily have won it. Then obviously the next week against Crusaders, I think they really showed that. They are a serious team. They can compete with the Kiwi side. So, and also I kind of assume that Waratahs, if they just took that little bit of robbery in Christchurch on the right way, they would be fired up and really make sure we're going to do the business this week. So I predicted a Waratahs, not as big as score, but that I think that the card obviously came into picture. But even before the card came out, but it looked like Waratahs was better. But that's maybe an idiot argument because Highlanders are pretty well renowned for being good at scrambling and coming back and feeding out of scraps. So they might have won it, but 14 men, of course, it would be possible for them. Waratahs were good.
So let's go through those early pieces. The Tars got an early penalty to get the score up. The Highlanders looked great in broken play. You had your Ben Smith, your Aaron Smith, your normal suspects offloading straight off, hitting that tight channel over and over again to score a try, only for it to be called back for a forward pass as the accountant Ben Smith had overrun the ball. We then had Nairavoro doing what he does best, which is using his power. Also, perhaps showed a bit of twinkle toes to step around one player to go over in the corner. And then the moment that potentially decided the game, 18 minutes in, there's a high ball. The player goes up as you would normally do with a leading leg, but with basically your studs facing downwards, but the knee up to protect himself, which is pretty standard. Caught the ball, looked down, saw that the player was about to hit him as he landed, and so stuck his foot out in the guy's face.
Yeah.
And yes, I initially thought, when I heard about this before I saw it, I was like, the guy in the air is looked after and he can do basically what he likes. What you can't do is look at somebody and deliberately kick them in the face, which is what he did here. If he had jumped up, had his eyes in the air, looking at the ball, and had his legs stuck out, different situation entirely. But he didn't. He'd already caught the ball, and this was to try and stop him from getting hit. He knew he was about to get hit as he landed, and deliberately putting the studs in the guy's face.
Yeah. I mean, basically, obvious kicking movement by his leg also just before. It's not like he has his leg in the same angle all the time when jumping. He clearly kicks.
Yep, he clearly he goes up with a knee with the knee bent and the leg facing downwards. He then catches the ball. He looks down, straightens his leg into the guy's face, and it's a clean red all day.
But it looks very cool on pictures. Actually, it looked like proper kung fu. You know,
it's a red. He's going to get a ban that's going to be 2 to 4 weeks. I don't know. We've had people hitting people's heads and getting away with 4 weeks good behaviour, 2 weeks. Sorry,
he has no record of good. He has no record of good behaviour he can call on. He only played like 6 games in Super Rugby ever, and if you only have a few games, you don't have a clean record. If you want to,
he has a clean record. It's only if you have a bad record. He has a good record so far. This is his first ever card.
Yeah.
So,
but he hasn't played many games.
That's fine, but he hasn't got. He's not a repeat offender, so therefore he'll plead guilty. It'll get halved from whatever it is.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
My understanding. Sorry. Okay, no. My understanding is the citing committee. If you're going to claim good behaviour, you have to show that you've been good behaved for a couple of seasons. Otherwise, you can't play that card with them. It's up to you to prove for several years of play that you are a clean player.
Well, as long as he hasn't picked up a bunch of cards coming through the age grades, I think he'll get away with it.
He will not get extra for sure.
And then let's double down, and Aaron Smith gets himself yellow carded 2 minutes later. So not only are we down to 14 players, we're now down to 13.
I think another like correct call, but I mean I'm probably not alone of it. It's getting frustrated because we do the inconsistency about deliberate knockdown. Sometimes even just a scrum, sometimes a penalty, and sometimes a yellow card. And it feels like complete lottery what you're going to get depending on the day and the referee. And it's seriously ruining the experience when you're watching as a fan. When some members a rule that should be pretty clear is ref so inconsistent.
And it should be pretty clear. And basically, if you only have one hand and it goes downwards, then you're off the pitch. It's a yellow card. If you have 2 hands to it, then you've got more of a chance. And if you knock it up in the air, then you get to stay on the pitch. But if you knock it down like he did, with one hand outstretched, he only got his fingertips to it. He was never catching that ball. Not in a month of Sundays.
Very yellow. But what annoyed me was because there were a few other situations in this game where he didn't go for yellow card because he made this addition to the laws that he got yellow card because it was a line break. And the second half, it was another knockdown. It was no card now because there's no line. I never heard that interpretation of the law before. Have you heard it? But it needs to be a line break to get a yellow card.
That was a new one.
Yeah. So also the laws are complicated as they are, but when the refs even start making up their own extra laws while playing it, it's like. So gray hairs are coming.
So I thought that was I was comfortable with that yellow.
Me too.
As well. And I thought that actually that Naholo got a bit lucky that Naravoro scored a try in the corner because I thought Naholo that looked to me like a pretty clear no arms tackle diving at the legs. So I thought he could easily have got in trouble for that one if Naravoro hadn't scored that time. So the Highlanders survived that yellow pretty well and went in at half time 15-0 down because there was just that one try when they were on that yellow. And as I say, Naholo got lucky in that situation. I think he could easily have been in trouble too. Rona gets held up over the line after a couple of phases, but Folau gets the try anyway. And it's amazing. 44 minutes until the Highlanders scored their first points. That was That's got to be some sort of record. When's the last time a New Zealand side, excluding the Blues, didn't score a point for the first 44 minutes? I'd be good to know. But you're down a man, and you manage to get a situation where Elliot Dixon is stood on his own in about 10 metres of space. The cross kick comes across, and he's just got to catch it and put it down. That was poor by the Tars. Great. That's appalling by the Tars. You've got an extra man, and you basically don't bother marking half the pitch. Anyway.
But I thought Highlanders actually, while attacking, they didn't seem like they lost too much edge by being 14 man. It was much more in defense, and it was obvious that they got to be like we're gonna leak some here, because we did pretty good for long periods too. Because I have to say, Waratahs played pretty goddamn good rugby for long periods in this game. There was some solid rugby from the Waratahs. I mean, Foley probably have his best game for the season at 10. Really sharp play.
Yeah, did a nice wraparound at one point when they were under advantage for a try from memory. Folau picked up his 50th try for the Tars, I think it was. But you say it wasn't until later. I mean, the Highlanders managed to pull it back to 29-12 at one point, but then the Waratahs just added a couple of extra tries to stretch that gap out late on. And again, Phipps, another disallowed try. So there was plenty of disallowed tries this weekend.
It was, and I thought that one on Phipps, that was not also a little bit controversial, because it didn't. But we were a maul, and we was called obstruction, and it was also like very, very similar situation on the other side of the field where the referee said, no, that's fine, It was, indeed, one of the Highlanders tries looked like he should be called back for obstruction.
Yeah, and he said no, they were still down the same channel, so it was all okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you looked at the Phipps try, it looked very similar.
It's very difficult to the whole maul thing as to when it is a maul, when it's a new maul, when it's an old maul. I don't know. So
we still love this game, eh?
I'm not going down that one. Let's say I'm a specialist line-out coach. I'm not a forwards coach overall. Okay, just the line-out bit. The kicks from hand, only 12 by the Highlanders. It showed that they changed their style of play because there were players down. They kept it in hand a lot more, I think, than they would normally do. They'd put up a lot more contestable kicks normally, but I think they realised having 14 players, they couldn't risk that so much.
That and Israel Folau, I would say.
Maybe also Israel Folau. Again, 180 passes by the Tars, 112 by the Highlanders. And 121 runs, but 284. So the Tars, and having that's 60 more passes and runs. That is an unusually large gap. It's normally about the 20 odd mark. They were definitely throwing that ball around a lot on Saturday night.
They did, but I thought for them it may sort of make sense actually, because it's a good way to tire out the other team. To go coast to coast to coast and just let them. And I was also impressed by Tata. You can many times see when a team gets the man advantage for a full game, they actually start pushing a little bit too much. They want to go for the kill right away. There should be space here. There should be space there. And if the other team is stressing, it's not that hard to defend with 14 men if the other team are like stressing their movements, pushing way too hard. But we kept cool heads. Yes, we know we just go through this process, and eventually they will leak. And fair play to Towns. I thought in this case it made sense to throw a pill around like they did.
Yeah, that's they got themselves a comfortable victory. So yeah, they played well. Moving on then over to South Africa, Sharks versus the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs missing a host of All Blacks for this game.
All of them.
So, well, not quite all of them, but because Triple T came off the bench. For example, and I believe he's been called into the squad. So,
but he didn't know he was an All Black then. Missing all their All Blacks. Also looking pretty tired. I had the Sharks down for 3 on this one. Got it slightly wrong. The Sharks won it by 4 rather than by 3.
but that's pretty close. 3 early points to the Sharks. So, yep, they were definitely kicking their rather than going for the corner. So perhaps not having a full confidence in their line-out. Some wonderful play by the Sharks front row with their offloading skills. Not something that you normally see from a South African side.
The Bees look in good form for the Test series coming in. What do you reckon?
Sorry?
The Beast.
Oh, he's always been looking good. They
Yes, with the extra form now.
Andres, the Sharks were cruising. I'm not so sure about that one.
If I was a Shark fan, I would probably be a little bit disappointed. I mean, that was a seriously depleted Chiefs team. You know, they could have beaten. They should have beaten them with more points.
No, I totally agree. I think they should have should have given This again is the most disappointing side in Super Rugby, the Sharks. Yes, they should have been beating the Chiefs by more than that one. Getting caught out by a trick line-out move for the Sharks to score their try by kicking it, overthrowing the ball, so not even having to maul properly was a bit bad. And to go in 10 all at half time was a bit poor, really.
Yeah, it was not easy on the eye this game. I mean, they were probably the worst game of the weekend, actually.
As I think Ryan talked about the Sharks game last weekend, he said, his eyes were bleeding by the time he's like, the Sharks are, they're not playing easy on the eye at the moment. Interesting seeing Charlie Nartai back at 13 rather than at fullback. Picked himself up a nice intercept try there. The Sharks nipped over for a try from the back of a scrum, which put them 2 scores ahead, and they saw it out. The only reason this one was remotely close was that the Chiefs scored after the hooter, so it makes it look closer than it was. They were never really. It was all too little, too late. So Ashwin has joined us in the chat. Thank you, live chat. Thank you, Ashwin, for joining us, and has decided that he's going to put his oar in and go, why did the All Blacks have to miss the game? Is Super Rugby a serious competition or not? Perhaps that's one, Ashwin, we can ask ourselves tomorrow on the #Rugby chat rather than game reviews, and we'll talk about that one tomorrow night as one of the questions. Some of the stats from this one: 5 penalties for the Sharks, 10 for the Chiefs, so they didn't help themselves that way. But as you say, this was not easy on the eye. 21 turnovers by the Sharks. 22 by the Chiefs.
All right.
Neither side wanted the ball, basically.
No. And with so many handling errors and also from time to time not impressive scrumming into it, rugby can be pretty dreadful to watch sometimes because it takes away all the things that's beautiful with rugby. It's all of a sudden far, far, far away, you know. And you just know, as soon as you stick 1-2 passes together, something is on here. But after a while in that game, you just knew, no, they're going to drop it. They're going to drop it soon enough. You just stay here and watch it.
And again, 17 clean breaks to the Sharks to 5 by the Chiefs. So, how you can have 3 times as many clean breaks and still only win by 4 points? That
was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive by Chiefs to get 24 points with so many handling errors, so few clean breaks. You know, that's a magician, man. Some magic there. How did we do that?
Well, partially by the fact they had Marcy Banks kicking perfectly. I think was part of it. Much quicker than his brother, who takes a lot of time. The smiling assassin kind of thing. He just knocks him over, and that was part of it.
I like you calling Banks. Marty Banks.
Oh, it's not Marty Banks, is it? Sorry. Oh, dear me. Marty McKenzie. Jeez. Oh, I'm tired.
No. I was thinking about, have they got Banks back from that? No, he's in Japan. But since you're such a wealth of knowledge, it's always hard to go against you. No, Paul, that was I.
Well, he's just finished in Italy, hasn't he? So he's actually so he might be over in Japan now. Because Marty Banks was playing for Treviso last season. So yeah, actually he'll be in off season at the moment. Anyway, moving on. Lions versus Brumbies. So we have so this could have a bit of a shock here. Tom Banks scores an early try. And you're like, wow, we're not seen this. Not seen this.
Where did he get that speed from? Where did have you seen it? I mean, he looked like a proper sprinter there. Like, boom, like a rocket.
We've not seen this Brumbies side for and it was a bit of a bit I've gone mirage because we saw the real the real Brumbies came out after that and lost the game quite comfortably to the Lions, but
I thought this game was like decided by one moment for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because just before the minute 60, I thought Brumbies looked like we're going to win this because Lions again look a bit fragile, lots of handling errors, like no real structures, and Brumbies look way more dangerous. It was by Rory Arnold's red card that completely destroyed them. It was a stupid red card. Another one, like, if you see the replay of it, it's like 100% a red card. Like his shoulder bangs into the shin of Elton Jantis, was it? And you just know, what are they thinking? What are they thinking?
Yes, that was on 61 minutes.
It fell apart completely after that. Also, probably spending because they had Nasarani and Pocock was back, and they looked really good, both of them, but they took them off after 55 minutes. So that probably didn't help either.
Well, it didn't help that you had Rory Arnold red card on 61 minutes, Sam Carter then yellow carded a minute later. So let's take out both of our locks and try and play. That wasn't. So yeah, no, you're right. At that point, up to that point, it was 21-24. So the Brumbies were leading, and then as you say, they kind of fell apart. And it was line out maul. It was basically how the Lions won this one.
Talk about Lions here. You've been watching them closely for the last 2 seasons, and they have played, brilliant rugby. And now it's like it's all gone.
Exactly, and what's changed? Well, Ackerman's gone up north, but the rest of it's not like he left and took his coaching staff with him. He left his entire coaching staff behind him. He took his son. He took his son with him. One player who was an emerging player, not even necessarily a full-time starter, and left behind the entire setup that should be able to just continue as it did, as it was, and it hasn't for some reason. The backs just haven't clicked. They're not playing the exciting, expansive rugby. Yang Cheese isn't being given the platform that he's had previously, and that doesn't. And fly halves always look worse when they're not given front football. He used to be getting front football all the time. He's not anymore, and we're seeing much worse play from him. He's lacking confidence. And he did one crossfield kick in this game that went backwards in the 22, and I'm like, what? That's possibly the worst crossfield kick I've ever seen. Except maybe Crotty's one, but then again, that was a sliced crossfield kick in his own 22. That wasn't really on purpose. There are some. Yankees clearly is not playing with much confidence at the moment. Okay, sure, they've lost Faf de Klerk, but Faf wasn't first choice scrum half last season anyway. He was on the bench most of the time, or a lot of the time. So, I'd clearly Ackerman is the problem. Just to inspire the team.
But I also agree with what you're basically saying here, but he left enough players and structures there for them to continue to build. And it seems like they're not building on what's left of it, they're destroying what he left. And I also think they look so prone to make mistakes. Even when we played against the Hurricane and Highlanders in New Zealand too, you can clearly see that there are enough talent and skills in the Lions team to actually be able to beat the New Zealand team, but they just they're so close and so far away from getting it all together. They make so many stupid mistakes. Like we are. I was against Highlanders. I don't know how many times they were inside Highlanders 22 and just kept dropping the ball. Like, And this is not like only one game. If you keep doing it, and do you have handling errors from this game too? How many times?
I can have the handling errors. Yep, I can bring them up. So turnovers conceded 15 by the Lions, 8 by the Brumbies.
Yeah, 15. I mean, that's.
Yep, that's bad.
That's not a top team. That's
But the reason that they're in this one, for any reason, is down to the Brumbies' discipline. 9 penalties by the Lions, 17 by the Brumbies. 17 penalties, 2 yellow cards, and a red card.
Yeah, but the red card was what triggered it all, because the red card made when the Brumbies took a lot of penalties just trying to defend their driving maul, and that's how we got the next yellow card, and then that's when most of those penalties come. It was before that, the Brumbies stayed pretty disciplined, but it was. I don't like to say like one event changed the game, but here it was very evident, But also because I have to factor in it was play on the high veld, on altitude, and you go down 14 men in the last 20 minutes. Oh, no.
But still,
good.
It's not good, but okay, so line-outs. The Lions won 18 of their 20 line-outs. How were the Lions playing? Oh, line-out maul, collapse.
Yeah.
Penalty, line-out maul, collapse. Yeah. Penalty. Exactly. Not the most riveting rugby to watch. Yeah. I like a good line-out maul, but I like to have a bit of variety. I don't just like to see 40 minutes of line-out mauls in a half.
We're not Georgians.
So that was that's basically. To be fair to the defence in this one, 88% by the Lions, 86% by the Brumbies. Some pretty good first up tackling there. So that was pretty. So happy with that side of things from them. But the Lions just uninspired. And I only seem to be able to score from line-out mauls from my notes. I look at my notes, just see one after the other, and yeah, that's how they created the errors by the Brumbies and won the game.
Very much meat and potato.
Going on to then the final game of the round, the Jaguares versus the Bulls, 54-24. Ouch! That's a lot of points by the Jaguares.
Yeah, but they were. First half was pretty even. I thought Bulls did good, but Jaguars showed again that they are a much changed side. When we were put under pressure, we don't give away too many stupid penalties. We don't give away any yellow card. We stay calm. And when we got like classic, like Kiwi thing just before halftime, then we got they've been put under a lot of pressure. We got one chance inside the Bulls 22 and we score right away. So we go in with a solid halftime lead. But in the second half, it was, should not use too big words, but that was proper champagne rugby from the Jaguares. They played brilliant. They are I pretty much watch every game in Super Rugby, and at the moment they are the form side in the competition. They would back themselves against any team at the moment, the way they're playing now.
Yeah, and they were doing something that a lot of us traditionalists like. They built a score. They were kicking their threes, and they're happy to keep the scoreboard turning over. Sanchez didn't have the perfect day with the boot, so he missed some as well. But they were slow. They were happy to creep ahead and build a lead over the Bulls rather than forcing it and going, right, we have to score in sevens. No, we don't. Yep. We can. If they're going to keep giving us penalties, which they did all day, then we're just going to take. Then we're going to take the points. It's 7 penalties to 11. So okay, not an excessive amount by the Bulls, maybe with 11 penalties, but with 69% tackling compared to 75 by the Jaguares. The Jaguares' tackling wasn't great, but the Bulls was abysmal. You're going to get territory and get yourself some points. Another one where they were happy to build in the first half and in the second half ran away with it. Only had 43% of territory in the first half to the Jaguares, but 68% in the second half, as the pressure told and probably the travel also told on the Bulls. But yeah, defence by the Bulls was awful. 23 clean breaks by the Jaguares to 11 by the Bulls.
It was poor by the Bulls, but still you have to applaud the Jaguares because they put on some really slick moves in the second half. If you half open your eyes, you can think it was another team playing in black jerseys. They're totally destroy Bulls. And that's it's going to be interesting following Jaguares. It seems like they are doing it. I'm very, very impressed what we're doing. But like, first thing we sorted out was obviously the discipline, and then we have sorted out their set piece, they have sorted out their defense, and now you have all these building blocks. And now we're starting throwing the pill around also, and that builds a solid pickup. Because we know we can throw a pill around too. We have those skills too, so they're starting to look like a complete side.
I read the stats on this one, and I was a bit kind of like, are those true? So, the Jaguares, 121 passes, 130 runs. They ran, so there was, we talked earlier about how a lot more passes and runs is unusual, but to have less passes and runs suggests a lot of picking going, suggests you forwards have laid the groundwork that you've earned, here the air quotes, earned the right to go wide, amongst the forwards. So yeah, the forwards, need a lot, whilst we'll talk about the lovely play the backs have been doing, I think the forwards needed a lot of the credit in this one.
I mean, what's probably most telling for what a dangerous side with Jaguares can be from the rest of the season is it's pretty hard to pick out a man of a match in Jaguares, because from 1 to 23, they all delivered. There wasn't one single Jaguares player who had an off game. As you say, the forwards really, really put up a great platform for the backs to play on, but then you have to give kudos to the backs too, because that platform, they used it full on, they took full advantage of a platform the forwards gave them, and hence 54 points, and it could have been a lot more actually.
Okay, so do you want to hazard a guess as to who's the top carrier in the game?
Kramer.
No, Creevy. Creevy with 19, Kramer with 16 carries, and then Decio with 12 carries. So the top 3 carriers in this game were all forwards for the Jaguares, which shows you that. And then we had Gallant with 10, and Cancelleri also with 10, obviously returning kicks. But yeah, as I say, a lot of grunt work done by those 3 boys. Lavanini with 8, and it's good to see that. Actually, just quickly check, he didn't pick up a yellow card, because there was 1 yellow card for the Jaguares. I'm trying to see. No, Mali.
74 minutes, and it wasn't like ugly. It was more like
Yep, so
a little bit stupid, a little bit unlucky.
Whilst we used to always say, yep, Lavanini's on the pitch, he's going to get a yellow card. Yay, let's wait for it. No, he's improved over the last few weeks.
Their locking combo, Lavanini and Petty, they look amazing the last couple of games. Have they lost any lineouts in the last 3 games? I wonder, did we lose any lineouts in this game?
Here I am. So they lost 1 lineout in this game.
They lost 1 lineout,
yep.
Okay, but I think they lost like 1 or 2 lineouts in the last 4 games, and we steal a lot from the other teams. Especially Petty is really good. And also, come back to what you said before, this thing, if your forwards deliver, if there's one player in Jaguares who looks like proper world class at the moment, it's Sanchez, the fly half. I mean, he's running the show. Had a really good bullet pass for, I think, was it for the 3rd or the 4th try. One of them. But also his game control. He's like, so that's all, it comes back to this, like, as a 10, you can never ever look world class unless your pack is really delivering for you, no matter what you do. But also, if your pack deliver, it makes you wonder, do you really have to be world class to look world class if your pack is like really delivering for you?
Well, it makes, you can look good, but, if you are also executing your kicks properly and leading them around the pitch, they will put in a lot more work to give you that opportunity to do so as well. If you're wasting every ball they give you, then they're going to get disheartened, and it's hard to maintain that confidence. But when if they're going to give you the platform, you have to deliver, and he is doing so. He has definitely matured this season. I always felt that previously he needed Hernandez outside him, but he seems to have managed to get away from needing that crutch, and has looked much better on his own now. They're playing. So,
but it's interesting what you say. I just want to come back to how the forwards react to the fly half, and because in the Sunwolves game, obviously, if you watch, obviously it's a lot of celebration when you win last minute drop you, but still you see the forwards in Sunwolves now. They love Hayden Parker. They love him. I watched because I watched on Japanese television how they everyone come up really close, hugging and looking in the eyes or the man, I mean, because it's gonna be quite beautiful I mean, if all the hard work, if your kick is gonna deliver again and again and again, just both from tee and from hand, I mean, it's sweet. It's very, very sweet. I have a friend who played forward. He said, like, what was it when you liked a back player the most? Oh, that's like when you're inside your 22 and you do a turnover and your fly up kicks it down 8 meters into touch. You know, that's like,
Yeah, in Hayden Parker, and also it helps that they've gone we're round 14, so they've lost something like 10 games on the trot, and then have won 2 on the trot. So that also helps that when you do actually win a couple of games, and if your kicker's the guy that's got you a lot of those points, then you're all going to be happy with each other as well. And that's been one of the things about is that the Sunwolves haven't been leaving any points out there on the pitch. They've been getting everything they can out of it. Which does mean that they have to bring their A game. They have to keep. They can't afford to lose to leave any points out there. Otherwise, they will lose these games.
I think like Hayden Parker, he has yet to because he played a few games in the top league before last year too. He's yet to miss a kick when playing in Japan.
He's yet to miss a kick in Japan. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and he got the question. So have you never missed a kick in Japan? Like, of course I have in training.
Oh dear me. So yeah, again, another one of these ones of again, it's with Jaguares pulled away in the second half with that 68% possession. Penalty count we talked about. Clean breaks 23 to Jaguares, 11 to the Bulls, and we talked about the bad tackling. So good win earned by the forwards and finished off by the backs, which was good. And another crossfield kick with nobody bothering to defend half a pitch. But in all honesty, by then, who cares? The game was already was well over by that stage. So it's
and one more thing to add to this. You have to there's one guy have some eggs on his face after this game, and that's John Mitchell, who after the game last week when we beat the Sharks got questions about how you're going to play against the Jaguares next week. And he was like super confident. Oh no! I watched a couple of our games earlier today. This is the same day we played the Sharks. Where he's warm up for games. He's watching future opponents apparently, not to focus on the game ahead of him. And he was pretty staunch, you know. No. I haven't figured out. It's not going to be no problem at all for us, you know. I see their weaknesses are everywhere. You know? It's going to be no problem whatsoever, you know.
And before they went on tour, I'd agree with him. They probably could. After they've been on tour, it's a different side now that's gone home. Probably the wives are going, Are you still my husband? You're a different man. You've come back a changed man from the tour. Oh dear me. Cool. So that brings us to the end of our coverage. I think anything else in there? Yes, actually, what won this one, actually, if we're looking at it, is that it was 20-10 at half-time, and the Bulls didn't score again in that second half until the 69th minute. So nearly half an hour of rugby without scoring in that second half, and that's where the Jaguares took control and ran away with it. And by the time the Bulls managed to came back to score, there was not enough time, and they weren't scoring anywhere near enough points to win the game. So it was all over. It was in that third quarter that this game was really won by the Jaguares, and just after half time.
There's a fun little stat from this round that you can see. Scoring 24 points didn't mean anything in this round. You see, 14 scored 24, all of them lose.
Wow, that's what we got to see. Here's our statistician. 14 scored 24 points and lost. Wow, that's and then you add on to that also the Storm have scored 23 and lost.
Storm 23, yeah. That's Super Rugby for you,
Cool. Are we going to talk about? We've overrun. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about another topic anyway. We were talking about the Lions and how their assistant coach hasn't been able to step up, and yet he got a lot of the praise for how the Lions have played in the past, technically. And if we look at a player, look at another coach that's been in a similar situation, that's getting a lot of praise currently as an assistant coach, has been Stuart Lancaster, a guy who, at the top, where he was doing 20% coaching, 80% management, didn't cut it and lost his bottle. Where he's back to now doing 80% coaching and 20% management, is showing where his real skill is at, which is actually coaching players on how to play. And I think that's possibly where the problem with the Lions is currently, is that the guy they've got at the top is not a manager, and he's been asked to do something that's not his skill set, whereas actually he's a very good coach, as we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, but he's not a good manager. And as more of his time is taken up managing rather than coaching, that's why I think we're seeing the Lions slip.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So
and that's you see this also like in the world outside rugby too. That probably the most common mistake most companies do is to employ your best salesman to be CEO. And what we get wrong is instead, and usually what the salesman wants to be CEO because they get a higher salary. I mean, you can pay your number 2 even better than number 1 if he's more valuable to the organization. But probably maybe we'll see more about this in the future. But I'm a massive fan in share leadership, especially in when you have like sports team or rugby team. It's like 50 persons probably you have around you. You're gonna manage. Very hard to do that by yourself.
Oh, there must be leadership teams that you are expecting your forwards coach to be the guy who's managing the forwards, your backs coach to be the man, and as head coach, you're probably managing the other coaches, and the head physio and that kind of thing. You're not actually managing that much of the players, I wouldn't have thought. Andre reckons he's pretty sure that Swayze has been head coach everywhere but at the Lions until this year. One of the interesting things that came out of Plumtree when he first went to changed from managing a Mitre 10 Cup team to being part of the coaching setup at one of the Super Rugby franchises, was just the sheer scale and the size of the organisation. Suddenly you went from a head coach, an assistant coach, and maybe a conditioning person to a head coach, an assistant coach, a backs coach, a scrum coach, a line-out coach, a couple of trainers, a physio, and the whole setup was different. Being head coach at a Mitre 10 Cup or side, and then being a head coach at a Super Rugby team or at a international team is a different set of skills that they do need to learn as well. Cool.
Yeah, but it comes through with Steve Hansen. If you just say something about him, to me, he comes through like a really good manager more than anything else. It seems like he knows how to make people around him to perform.
Who?
Steve Hansen.
Steve Hansen. Yep.
The All Blacks coach. He seems like a really, really good manager when it comes to making people around him perform.
The triumvirate of Graham Henry, Hansen, and Smith. They all have that to a greater or lesser degree. I mean, one of the interesting points was at one point where they went, you know what, just so we don't get stale, we're going to rotate who does what. So the person who was the defence coach became the backs coach, and the backs coach became the forwards coach, and the forwards coach became the defence coach, kind of thing. And they all rotated around just so they didn't keep stale. And that was really interesting. One where you have some people like Andy Farrell or Edwards, Gustard up until now, they are defence coaches through and through. That's what they do. They do defence coaching. And you never see them we don't have Graham Roundtree, for example, who's been a scrum coach and a forwards coach his entire coaching career. You don't suddenly see him go and become a backs coach or an attack coach. So it's interesting. It's different again, different style of coaching down in New Zealand perhaps than some of the other places. But being multifaceted is perhaps a good thing as well.
Especially if you're going to be head coach.
Well, yes, exactly. But then again, isn't being a boss the most important thing? Is getting good people beneath you rather than actually being good yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, we have rabbited on for one of our longest shows. Thank you, Herman, very much for joining me. Why don't you let people Well, yes, just thank you because you're a social media ghost. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul. So thank you very much for joining us. Always up for a rugby chats, comments down below, or you can catch me at Driving Maul on Twitter. There you go. It's all written down there for you on the screen. Or if you're listening to the podcast, obviously at Driving Maul. And if you are listening on the podcast, please give us a 5-star review. Somebody else did, and I've just gone and forgotten to have it up for me. So, yes, it was wonderful to get a 5-star review. So please do leave me some. I will read out the one I got tomorrow. I will remember to have it available. So thank you for watching, and catch you all tomorrow night at the same time.